Okay, hello, I'm back. My name is Emily O'Gorman, and I am actually going to teach a class. I think I told you last video. It's called, this class is basically, this is my class about, if I could give it a topic, it'd be just, I don't know. I'll think of the topic of the name of the class later. So basically, yeah. So anywho, I wrote 2 books. It's called Sketchbook, and I'm gonna start on the first one. It's the first video. So here we go. Let me show you what it looks like really fast. Let's see if I can flip the camera. I don't know. Okay, let's show you this way. So this is what it is. I'm gonna teach you, what the poem is. I'm gonna read it, and then I'll explain to you what it is and all that kind of stuff. This is the first video. I just go black. Okay, so this one is this is the first page. When you open it, it says basically this is the first poem I wrote, and this is what this video is gonna be about. So the first poem that I wrote was about Leila Perez, because I was at Independent Living, and Leila Perez was my roommate. She ended up being a roommate with me, and what happened was, like, she had, her half of the room, I had my half of the room, and it was an independent living. And anyways, I found out that she ended up being, like, more significant to the world than I would have ever even known previously. So I wrote a poem about her, basically. So here it is. I'll read it. Okay, so it says, red and blue create the sky. Sorry. Let me restart for a second. Let me get situated here. Red and blue create the sky, and yellow and green create the sun. Because if you remove green, you get yellow. Because if you remove green, you get yellow. And if you create the blue with the green with the red and remove the green, you get red. And red is anxiety. And anxiety is a shady, assetless person. And that's anxiety to me. From Emily. So it's kind of interesting that it's on the first page, because I guess this whole book is about not being a shady ass person. How to be a good person as an individual. So that's this class. So basically, that's what I wrote for that poem. So looking at the first part of the poem, basically the background story, I was drinking, and my friend Charles Sideropoulos was over there, and he was, carrying on, doing his thing and everything like that. Anyways, I was sitting there trying to, like, impress him for some reason, and he like, ended up, somehow, I don't know how, but I think he ended up, like, somehow bringing up, like, Leila Perez or something, or maybe I was, like, trying to confide or something like that. Like, maybe I was just trying to, like, find conversation, and he ended up saying something about Leila Perez or so. Anyways, I wrote this poem about her, but I did it on the spot, like, just out of my head, because I wanted to, like, beat around the bush and all that kind of stuff, and try to figure out, basically try to figure out, a way to tell him that I didn't really like Leila Perez at the time. So anyways, I found Leila Perez the other day, like a random type of situation. She just popped in my head, and, like, she showed me her brain. Basically, she is a brainiac. Like, her brain is so effing smart, like, so freaking smart. I didn't even know people get that smart, honestly. I didn't. Her brain is so smart. It really, pisses me off, because she's like, she's a freak, man. Like, Leila Perez is a freak. Like, her brain, she has this brain that's like, let me try to put into words. It's like, my thoughts are like methodical discomponentum. These are my thought process for trying to figure out what I think about this. She's a genius. Why? Mythology and anthropology. The heck is mythology? Let's see. It's like mathematical, but in like a formula type way. It's very, very detrimental. She likes, my laptop. She likes to slam it around. I think she shouldn't be. No, actually, no, man. She likes. No, that was a hole that she did. She slammed my laptop. I think she put a hole in the wall, like as big as my head. It was like right at eye level. That's funny. What'd she do? She likes diseases. Her brain likes disease. So far, that's what I'm figuring out. That's a really interesting brain. Yeah, really interesting, that brain was. Also, she like. That's so weird. That whole. As in. She likes diseases. That's weird. Let me think. Isis Sparkle. She likes Isis Sparkle. That's weird. Let's see. Is Isis Sparkle? Hearts and Valentine's Day? For some reason, I think. Someone said that somewhere. I think I might have. So she might be saying that Jeremiah has a disease. I think. I mean, everybody thinks that. Jeremiah, he grows on you, man. Let's see. It's her formulas that are a disease. She's wondering. Let's see, because she says, in my thoughts. She sees Jeremiah. She's all the things I told you. She sees Jeremiah as something with Valentine's. She sees Jeremiah as something with Valentine's. That's weird. It's like, that's strange. Valentine's? So, those kikabotas together, it makes something like queasy. As like queasy. She's queasy. She don't know why. Let's figure it out. Might take longer than we think. She is really queasy sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Like the bird. You know. She woke up one day in the middle of the night. She's, you know what? I'm not gonna tell you because that's her privacy. You know what? I'm gonna read you this poem about her. Just 4 seconds or so. Let me think for a second. So basically, the formulas. See, that's part. Some people would think that's obvious. Some people think it's not obvious. To me, it's obvious, right? So if you have formulas, it could be very, very not good. Because if you put a certain formula together of a bunch of positive things, it will be manipulation. Because a person's thought processes think a certain time frame for so long before other things start leading them to believe that it's negative. And then all of a sudden, all of those positive things will look negative just because of how long they've been put together. It's a very important concept. So at this point for my class, I'm gonna offer. Not offer. This is an assignment. I need you guys to do a study on that concept specifically, which is, why is it that when you could put, a bunch of positive aspects together, all of a sudden it seems negative with timing. The timing it takes that you put those together, which would be called a formula. Basically, a formula, just to give it in short, is where you put a bunch of concepts together and then it would equal something. So it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong in this situation. Some formulas are. Like if you were trying to do a formula for chemistry or something like that, you would probably have to have the right formula necessarily. If you're working with certain chemicals or temperatures or things like that. But in this case, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, a formula as far as putting a solid concept together to have like one big thing, like my book, let's just say, like a book or something. If you have a book and it's published, it's going to be a whole book, no matter, if you go to the library or something like that, Barnes & Noble, it's a whole book. Something just completed. So if you were to put a bunch of books together and they had a whole theme or something, even if they didn't, what would you get in your thought processes or your brain after you read all of them as a formula? So I need you to do that as a study, and then I'm going to, you can pause the video, and then I'll do a lecture on that, or I'll do the next video on the lecture. That might make it more interesting, so that you don't feel tempted to have to go back and pause. I'll think about that for a second. So I'm gonna need this assignment done as the intro to the class, the first assignment, and see if there's any aspects you need to add. Okay, so basically I need to teach you what a study is, in case you didn't know. So people might not. Okay, so basically what a study is the assignment that you turn in is the entire study that you did for the topic I gave you. So basically, you sit down and you study this concept from beginning to end. Anything you could ever want to add or think you need to add, which would be a complete assignment. If there's aspects that you're missing, it's not completed. You will not pass the assignment, which means I'm going to have you redo it or something like that. You failed the class. Each assignment needs to be done, and they all need to be completed. So, that's what the assignment is. What's your study on this? And then, let me see if there's anything I have to add. It would be, for this one, don't add anything about Leila Perez's brain specifically, or any of that stuff. If it has anything to do with Leila Perez and her brain, or any of it, that does not need to be in the assignment. It means you cannot include it. I do not want it in the assignment at all, in the study at all. Just the theme I told you. And then after that, we're going to do a lecture on Leila Perez. So a lot of things that I do, so don't worry, that stuff will be in there. If you have, that's going to be the lecture. Interactive lecture of Leila Perez. And all this stuff, all that. So basically how I do things is I do a lecture, and I might switch it up every now and then, but I do a lecture, then I do an assignment, and then I do a lecture on the assignment. And then I might do that for tests and things like that too. Okay, so let's read this book really fast. I mean this one. It says, red and blue create the sky, and yellow and green create the sun. Because if you remove the green, you get yellow. And if you create the blue with the green with the red, and remove the green, you get red. And red is anxiety. And anxiety is a shady, assetless person. And that's anxiety to me. From Emily. I wrote it from Emily. I wrote. Okay, so it originally said ass person, a shady ass person. That's what it said. And that's anxiety to me. It's funny. So I'm gonna continue on telling you what this poem means, and then we'll go from there. So basically all it is was I was drinking, and I was like a little buzzed, I'm not gonna lie. I was drinking probably some like White Claws, or maybe some like things. 211s, I call them. I call them still over there. I think 211. Yeah. What they call? They say high gravity. I think. I'm not for sure though. Any of those things. Anyway. That's what I was drinking, I think. And I said this to Charles Sideropoulos. So basically the whole first part is just me using my brain It's not until you get to the very end that it really means anything, unless you're thinking of what I say specifically. But all the rest doesn't have anything to do with Lila Perez at all, unless it's ingenious. Ingenious means when you write something and then you could read it in different ways and it'll reveal other true things about the world or about things that happened in history or different time periods or thought process of different types of people, and they're actually true. That stuff actually happened. That's why it's ingenious. There's other ways to use ingenious, but that's kind of what it is for this poem specifically. So for that, okay, so it says red and blue create the sky. Because I think, like, if you think of like a sky, you think of like what you see when you go out there. And like basically it splits into two colors. Sometimes it's like blue and then sometimes it's red. Or no, it's red and then it's blue. So that's kind of all that part was that I wrote that part about. Red and blue create the sky. You ever see a sky? So, and then the next part is, and yellow and green create the sun. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to say. Yellow and green create the sun. So you look at a sun, it's yellow. So then you go to the next part. Because if you remove green, you get yellow. So a sun's yellow. And if you create the blue from the sky, that is, with the green, with the red, and remove the green, you get red. Because if you put blue and green together, it's still green. And then with the red, and then you remove the green, you get red. That's funny. And red is anxiety. It's funny because basically my mom told me before red was it invokes anxiety in kids or something like that, or in people, because she wouldn't let me paint my room red. But she did let me paint one wall. I just, the biggest wall there was a rectangle room. And the other side, parallel, had a closet. And the doors were off. So I chose the big wall on the side. So she told me red is anxiety. So I followed up on that later. I don't know. We'll go through a whole thought process about what anxiety is one day. I'll write it down so one day we could go back and look at what anxiety is. Probably. But I don't know. And anxiety is a shady, assetless person. And that's anxiety to me. So that's the end. And that's about Lila Perez. So I'm going to write that down really fast while I'm talking to you. So what is anxiety? Is it red? I have the color red. Okay, so some people, it might be obvious to some people my thought processes on this. This is basically about how a person takes in information. Okay, so now that I have that done, let's see. Okay, so I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but basically that was the before. After, and it says red is anxiety. Oh yes, and red is anxiety. And anxiety is a shady, assetless person. So basically all I'm saying is, if you were to see a person that was shady and assetless, asset to me does not mean money or materialistic things, jewelry things. Basically, anxiety of a shady, assetless person. The assetless person would be somebody who doesn't really have assets in their character, who they are. It doesn't mean they're not smart. Nothing like that. It means if you were a shady, assetless person, I originally said ass. If you're a shady ass person, it means there's something about you that is not favorable to me. to me specifically. And that's anxiety. I'm not afraid of her. There's nothing I fear when I say this. I'm saying anxiety, like, it's anxiety to me to be a shady, assetless person. So when I see one, it invokes anxiety. The word anxiety, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. So, to be a shady person from my perspective, looking at that from an outsider's perspective, then the shady person themselves, I see the word anxiety. Because I wouldn't want to be that. If I was that, then I would have anxiety. Okay, so I guess right now we'll go into like what is anxiety and why do I say stuff like this? It might be obvious, and it might not be. So basically, what is anxiety? When I say these words, it's because my brain is really, really, really good at communicating. And I really love words. Because basically you could intertwine words and throw people off and things like that.